involves sharing best practices, and we do that in several ways. We hold conferences, we do that via Twitter, webinars like today, survey results, we publish them and announce them at different conferences, and we also have a forum, and I'm hoping that some of you have actually joined our forum. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And there's a lot of activity going on. You can talk to people about different topics, have discussions. There are hot topics going on at the moment. We class Office 365 as a hot topic, and so there are a few little discussions going on there. So we urge you to join our community. The address is down at the bottom. We also hold some of the videos of the webinars that we've had in the past. So as you can see, since 2014, there's a few videos on there under events. So please have a look, and that is where you will find this video after, let's just say, not today, maybe tomorrow. It will be put up there by tomorrow. So please join the forum. Okay, so we also share best practices through 60-minute Tech Talks, and our next 60-minute Tech Talk is UCL's Connected Curriculum, and that's going to be held on the 24th of January, 12:30 to 1:30, and our guest presenter for that event will be Billy Fung, and she's the Academic Director of the Centre of Advanced Learning and Teaching. And I'd just like to give you a little tiny bit of background behind this Tech Talk. In 2014, we published a survey, and from that survey, 63 universities filled it in, and we got 11 case studies from there. And so what we are doing, or what we plan to do, is to revisit some of these case studies to see where they are now with the project that they were sharing with everybody. So we are always looking for anybody that wants to share experiences or projects on hot topics with the rest of the community. So if you are interested, then just please email me, lbarclay@sgul.ac.uk, and I'll get back to you and we can talk about it. All right, so we also share best practices for our conferences, and we have one in 2017 called the Spotlight on Digital Capabilities #3, and it's Student Futures, Equipping Students to Thrive in a Digital Age. So that's going to take place on the 24th and the 25th of May, and at Southampton Solent University Conference Centre. And if you want to book a ticket, then when they are publicised, please book as soon as possible, because they don't hang around for long. The tickets do go very quickly. So if you want to find out more about that, you'll see that we've got an address down at the bottom of the slide. If you go there, that's where you're going to find more information about it. But today is all about successful webinars, and we nearly had a disaster right at the beginning because my sound wasn't working. So Tim and Eileen are going to take us through how to run successful webinars. So over to you, Tim.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm Tim Neumann. I am going through the webinar today, and I should be right in your face at the moment. So welcome to this webinar, and apologies for the earlier sound issues. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So we'll go ahead if that's all right. I'm currently using the camera purposefully, but during the webinar I will switch off the camera every now and then. Just as I see it fit, because this webinar is about learning how to do things, well, not necessarily right, but in a sensible way. And we'll talk about all of these things. Now, let me call up my slides, and then we can start the session properly. So the title is What Really Makes a Good Webinar? But before we get into things, Let's go through some of the house rules. First of all, the use of text chat is really encouraged anytime. Thankfully, we have Gareth with us today, who will be keeping an eye on the text chat and alert me to any urgent issues that I might not see, because I'm not going to monitor the text chat while I'm talking. I'm a man and a human being, so I cannot multitask. So the myth of multitasking has been completely debunked anyways by research, and I'm terribly bad at it anyways. Even at task switching, which is what we actually cognitively do when we are supposed to multitask. Yeah, so please feel free to use the text chat and talk amongst yourselves. I'm not taking any offense, quite the contrary, I encourage that. So if you want to talk, then I would ask you to raise your hand first, and if you're not talking, then it helps to switch off your microphone, so keep your microphone button unpressed, because it sometimes might interfere. If there's too much interference, then I can switch off all of you in one instant, so probably you don't need to worry that much about it. Also, if I find that video isn't helpful, I might close it off completely. Be prepared to use the whiteboard tools. We have a couple of activities planned for today. Do participate in polls, and most importantly, think about what you do. And to help us do that, we're in a funny situation. We are doing a webinar about webinars, so there are two levels to it. So while we are meeting here, we also ideally need to think about what we're doing here. And sometimes I'm breaking out of this presenter role and try to do the thinking for us, or prompt a little bit of thinking. Now, when I do that, I thought about how can I signal that I actually have brought some acoustic signals with me that you might hear during the session if I remember to do that. But most importantly, I'm relying on old technology, one of the most usable technologies that there is. It's a piece of paper. So whenever I'm kind of going into reflective mode, I'm going to hold up a paper which says Meta. I hope it's in the right way around and not a mirrored image for you. And that is then the point when I'm addressing thoughts about the webinar and not the actual content. Right, so let's move on. So please, can you use the pointer, activate the pointer above the whiteboard, and answer the following question: how do you feel at the moment? Use the pointer and point to onto the emoticon how you feel at the moment. The pointer's in the top left corner. It looks like this, and when it's active, it's actually filled in, but it's somewhere here. All right, we have lots of smiley faces, which is very good, and lots of pointers moving around, so some people cannot properly decide. And can questions be repeated as text chat? Not always. I can't promise to do that all of the time, especially when things are moving a little bit fast. I have a new question for you. How do you feel about this technology, web conferencing technology? Please point your pointer towards the emoticon, how you feel about the technology, about using it, about moderating with it. Exactly, and thanks, Gareth, for typing the question. So there are still lots of smileys and a couple of anxious faces on the right-hand side. And maybe a little bit of confusion there. All right, and we have a hand raise from Sai. If you want to say something, then feel free to just talk, or otherwise you've taken your hand down already, so maybe that wasn't a word. So, okay, now for some meta thoughts. This is an example of an icebreaker, obviously, and we do need to get people trained in order to allow them to participate fully in this webinar. And I like to do this with some easy activities that aren't really cognitively challenging. So let's have a little bit of fun and move the pointers around. And if we had more time, I would probably have asked you to use additional tools to draw on the whiteboard. but I reckon most of you are actually pretty experienced in these types of formats. So I'll skip the easy bits. But an amount of training is always required for participants to get the best out of the session. So the main question of this webinar is, what really makes a good webinar? Let me now just, let me turn this effectively into a poll. Oh, we have a complete newbie. Oh, I should have changed my colors of the text. All right, so I'm going to start a poll now. I first need to number the items, which I haven't done in advance, so apologies for that. And the poll has 5 choices and should be visible on your screen now. Please, well, vote for what you think is the most important option to what really makes a good webinar. Is it the content? Is it the session plan? Is it the presenters? Is it webinar tools? Or a combination of all of it? And I'll give you about 5 more seconds before we close this poll. All right, poll is closed, and I actually did a mistake. I pressed the wrong button and have hidden the responses. But let me tell you, so that's a beginner's mistake. Apologies for that. So a combination of all of the above was the most popular choice by far. So that's a kind of an obvious choice. So let me delete this 5th option and give you a 4-choice poll. So can you please respond again to the same question, but the 5th option is not available anymore. So if you were forced to choose your, the most important tool or aspect of what really makes a good webinar, then is it the content, session plan, presenter, host, or webinar tools? Make a choice, please. And again, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Brilliant. And now I'll show you the responses. So it's effectively the content and the presenter who you consider as the most important aspect. Less so the session plan. So preparation seems to be undervalued here in your group. And least of it, the webinar tools, which is actually quite interesting. We'll come back to that later. Now, let me actually remove the human element from that. Now, I'm asking you the question again, but you have 3 choices only. So if you were forced to choose between the content, the session plan, and the webinar tools, what would really make a good webinar? Content used to be the front runner just in the previous survey with 4 options, so I fully expect that content might be the front runner again, but you might change your opinion. And when you have previously set the presenter host as the most important option, let's see how you changed your opinion because you were forced to choose for something else. Right, here is the response. The content is still very popular, closely followed this time by the session plan. So preparation is probably not that undervalued among you. So thanks for that. And just as a meta thought, what I've currently done is I've just used the poll, normal polling tool for a quick response, but I've used it in successive fashion with eliminating options. And this is effectively something that people tend to forget about, that they can, yeah, you can effectively do this to drill down and get deeper into the meta of things. And it's actually quite interesting how sometimes quite interesting how the responses change. So, but the content effectively makes it or breaks it, apparently. That's your opinion. So no matter of how much polish you put over it, if the content's not right, then the webinar has less chances of being good. Okay, thanks for that. So what the blurb for this webinar promised was this. Promoting best practice for running successful webinars that people will remember and talk about long after the event. That's a pretty tall order, and to be honest, I didn't wrote this blurb myself, so I was actually getting a little bit nervous when I read this, but I signed it off, so yeah, no pressure. I hope you will remember things and talk about some of the aspects, even if it's just the duck whistle, but I hope you talk about it for the right reasons afterwards. So the blurb also promised that we would go through these 4 points. Well, I might change things a little bit. So what I want you to do now, again, please grab the pointer icon and place yourselves on this graph. The vertical graph is the number of sessions, of webinar sessions or web conference sessions that you've done so far. And the horizontal graph is how confident you feel in leading webinar sessions. So if you're very confident, point yourself towards the right and then upwards or downwards, depending on the number of sessions, a rough estimate that you've delivered so far. And we have an interesting picture here evolving, which is that we have 2 people at the moment who really are very, very experienced with over 100 sessions, quite a big few who are in the 60 to 25 range, but most of you are actually between 0 and 25. Eileen asked, can you say who you are? You would identify yourself in the text chat, actually. And interestingly, there's so this whiteboard currently does not automatically display the names. Other products would do that, and I'll come to other products in a second. But we do have a few people who have rather low or even no confidence, some average, some high, and some very high. Okay, so that's effectively a really good mix of people. When I read through the participant list, I was kind of assuming we had more regular users here. That's not a bad or good thing, the composition of this group here. It's just this kind of thing informs me as a moderator of how to pitch things effectively. And I have not used the poll deliberately, because this is now an example of a 2-dimensional questionnaire, and the polls don't really capture that. So here you can have a visual overview of the experience and confidence altogether, which is actually gives you different feel and different quality of the response. So as you can probably guess, the whiteboard is one of my most favorite tools in these web conferences, and we will use especially the whiteboard in a much more detailed way very soon. But let's get back to the agenda. Now, I have changed what I'm going to cover somewhat. Choosing the best tool, I thought that's a kind of a weird bullet point to have, because the best tool depends on the context, depends on the preference. What is best? I personally am of the opinion that it really depends on the context and the type of session, the format of session, the group of people you're with. So it's really difficult to identify a best tool that's universal. So I'm arguing more for purposeful use of the various tools that we have at our disposal. I'm also not really going into the technical details of setting up and configuring tools here in this session. There are plenty of really, really good guides out there that do the job much better than I could in just a few minutes. But I do want to talk about session formats. So what different types of sessions there are, because there are some questions that you have submitted in advance of the session, which I'm going to manage. And I'm aware of the time. We don't have much time, so better get on with it. We'll talk about managing interaction and some tips for success, but not in a structured way, not doing one bullet point after the other, but interwoven in the activities that we are doing. So what I would like us to think about is the terminology, because a webinar is actually kind of a funny term, and people have different are calling this thing that we do here on the web at the same time, different with different words. So what I want you to do now is use a whiteboard again, but select the text tool, the button that looks like a T, now I want to run this in a group activity. So I am now going to divide you into 3 groups, and the first group, and that might be a tip for you when you're running, when you need to put people into groups quickly. If you were born in February, May, August, or November, then you should act on the whiteboard now. If you were not born in February, May, August, or November, then please sit back. You will be called in a minute. And use the text tool to write down terms, what we could call these alternative terms for webinars. You might call it in a different way. There are loads of terms floating around. Can you just write not your birth date on the whiteboard, but alternative terms for sessions like this? And I'll give you a few seconds to do that. You can repeat terms that are already on the whiteboard, and it doesn't matter where you put it, just write it somewhere on the whiteboard. And we have quite interesting things. I'll add my bit to it, but you won't know what's coming from me. Well, you might guess once I've put it up there. And yeah, I'll give you a few more seconds, and then we'll move on to the second group. Now, it looks quite chaotic on the whiteboard, but that's all right. I'll give you 5 more seconds. Okay, please stop writing on the whiteboard now. We'll move on to the second group. So the second group, if you were born in March, June, September, or December, I'll paste it in the text chat in a second. So if you were born in March, June, September, December, you'll do something different. You're not taking the text tool. Please take the selector icon. It's effectively the mouse pointer tool, the leftmost button above the whiteboard. If you take that, you can choose any of these words on the screen and move them around. And I want you, if you were born in March, June, September, or December, I want you to sort the words on the screen so that similar words are in a similar place on the screen. Now, some of you might grab the same word at the same time, which might make things a little bit chaotic, but I'll trust that you sort yourselves out there. And all the others, you can lean back and watch what's happening on the screen. I hope that we can bring some order into the current mess, and yeah, we are getting there. Can you please move things closer together? Oh yeah, it looks much more orderly now, and it also gives us now an impression of how many repetitions we have there. Okay, and if you want to add a term that's not on the whiteboard, then if you were born in March, June, September, or December, then you can do this now. And I'll give you 5 more seconds. Thank you, and please stop sorting. We have now a ordered whiteboard, and now the third group. So thanks for that. The third group, if you were born in January, April, July, or October, then it's your turn now. And what I want you to do is pick either the pencil icon or the shape icon, rectangle, ellipse, or line, and mark the terms that you favor for this type of session. What's your favorite term? Please encircle it, underline it, or put some sort of X next to it or whatever. What's your favorite term for sessions like this? And we do not really have an agreement. So, but we have virtual classroom is leading a little bit, or no, online seminars probably. And interactive learning has 1 vote, and digital learning has 3 underlines. Now, what we don't know in this context is one person could mark multiple things or one thing multiple times, so it's not really a representative survey in numeric terms. But that's all right. Let's get back to the meta level again. So what has this activity done for us? This is an example of using the whiteboard in a very simple way. And it's a 3-step activity. In the first step, you effectively do a brainstorm. In the second step, you do an activity, a sorting activity to order the stuff on the whiteboard. That led to a really very quite structured whiteboard. And then the third step was to mark a favorite. And yeah, there is a text chat comment that there's no real consensus there. But that's actually the point. We have so many different terms, and I was the one who typed synchronous audiographic conferencing that somebody seems to have deleted, or I can't see it anymore. And whoever deleted that actually probably well done, because I think in terms of academic papers, I was one of, it's still there, sorry. And somebody has, yeah, somebody actually has crossed this out, so to speak. It's not used anymore. I think I was one of the last persons to ever use this term in an academic paper, and that was about 8 years ago now. So, it was quite a popular term in the 80s, 90s, and even noughties, but then it fell out of favor. So this is the point where I want to bring my colleague in. Eileen Kennedy has been mentioned on the first slide, and what I want to do now is, Eileen, you have actually made posed a question on the chat. Does the term we use give an indication of our approach? Actually, that's the question I wanted to throw back at you. So, because I know we spoke previously about that, do you have an opinion on that?
Yes, I mean, I think that potentially it could have a relationship, couldn't it? I mean, one of the things that that I was thinking with, you know, I put video conference in there. I mean, it's interesting that a lot of these terms like web conferencing and even your audio graphic, whatever you called it, thing. I mean, it doesn't mention the fact that you can have video, and many of our you know, experiences of webinars are that really video is not very well used, and it does strike me that that's kind of an important element of what we can do here. I mean, I don't know if video conferences are the best kind of approach, but I mean, virtual classrooms don't need to be synchronous, do they? So does that kind of imply we think we have to, you know, have these kind of similar kinds of approaches to a webinar than as we do with lectures, for instance? I mean, I'm just, you know, I just wonder if there's something underneath the kind of terms we use.
Thanks, Eileen, and that brings us nicely to the next point. I do want to talk about the different tools now a bit, and you have made a reference to videos, and video is certainly something that has become quite popular. Before we go into that, this is effectively something, an image that I've produced probably about 10 years ago, when the term synchronous audiographic conferencing was still a kind of a hit among researchers. And this effectively lists all the various elements that this environment has for us. And video streaming back 10 years ago still was suffering from bandwidth and quality problems, whereas nowadays it has improved so much. So I have, Kim makes the dial-up comment, yeah, when we still were working with dial-up modems, although I think that was about 20 years ago. Then video was extremely difficult. I have a kind of a defined approach to using video, I must say, and I'm sometimes misquoted as somebody who doesn't like video at all. I do like video, but only the purposeful use of video, and my rationale for that is actually a kind of a cognitive argument. I personally don't think having talking heads on all the time is purposeful use of video. The video can have a purpose. It sets the social feel, and I think that that's something that you would probably also agree on, Arlene. Isn't that the case? The social function of video? How important is that?
I think absolutely. I mean, I've taught a lot of text-based online classes where students have, really missed not being able to see, not so much the teacher, but, each other. And it just strikes me that, as you say, the purposeful use of video to show maybe students, the face behind the name, behind the words, is potentially the most valuable use of video. But I mean, obviously that is tricky if there's a large number of participants, clearly.
Yes. So a good purpose is to establish the social presence, what we call the social presence, because it makes the whole environment much more human. But if we are doing really stuff that needs our attention and concentration, then actually there is quite a bit of research out there that shows that having a video thumbnail of a person who doesn't even look into the camera because the person looks onto the screen is actually detrimental. So I'm currently doing that to demonstrate that. And if you have watched me earlier, then you will see that I actually try to work with the camera. Of course, I sometimes need to look at my windows on the screen. I have a dual screen setting. This is my other screen here. And so that's another purpose of video, to show things to people. So I must avert my eyes away from the camera, but I try as much as possible to address you out there who are participating in this webinar, to really establish this connection and draw you in. And also, when I'm leaning back, I position myself slightly to the side and not to the center, because that's actually cheapness video. So, the framing and so on, you can do the Mr. Robots being in one corner, the other way or so. So if you take some lessons from the film industry, then you can make the image much more interesting, I think. And cognitive load has been mentioned. Yes, that's effectively the thing that really can divert our attention away. And there are so many tools. How do we choose the correct one? And if you're in danger of overloading the students, then just reduce it. But but choose the tool that is really appropriate, that you cannot do without in order to do the task, or that brings something to it.
I think there is also something, though, about not being so concerned about how you appear as well, because one of the things that's really difficult to get when you're, I mean, say in the context of an online class, maybe it's different in I don't know, the one-off webinar, but that sort of being able to sort of see people in their unguarded moments. You can't really do that through text chat because everyone's preparing, and that can give those when you look at people when they don't know you're looking at them, that kind of thing, that can kind of really create a sense of trust, and somebody's saying it's humanizing, and and that's a really critical, I think, for online learning. It can add so much.
Yes, in terms of what the research says about it, that's actually quite interesting. We have this cognitive load theory, and there are then dual coding things and so on. The work from Mayer and Zweller and so on was quite influential there, which was about 10, 15 years ago. and a little bit earlier, and it still goes on. But the thing is, they have examined mostly stills image and how they interact with text or other means or voice and so on. But they have not looked at video, and it seems to be quite difficult to analyze video. Now, the research trend of multimodality seems to wants to address that, but it's video is still quite a mystery. So I still maintain that we need to manage attention in these environments. Hence, I occasionally switch off my camera. And there was actually a common.
I switch off
if you want to. Yes, we are about to move on away from video now. Okay. And I just wanted to pick up, there was, I think, question in the text chat: as the session moderator, can you control participants' video, whether they can be seen or not? What depends on the webinar tool that you use, the platform, and we are coming to platforms in a second. In this environment that we are currently using, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, I can switch off all of your videos and keep on mine. So if some of you were to switch on their videos and I don't want that, then I can cut you off. That's the power of the moderator. And I just want to mention one thing which is pretty common sense. One of the things that causes quite a bit of anxiety in the webinars is sudden silence. When suddenly nothing happens, that is quite disconcerting, and people immediately feel a little bit unsure of what's going on now. Have we lost the person? Because if you can't see and hear anybody and not even see any screen interaction, that very quickly becomes very scary. So one tip, manage the silence. And I think the best way is to demonstrate these things, which I try to do, and apparently it seems to have worked. So here's a tip for you: try to manage expectations. I'm not saying that you cannot be silent at all, because you do need a sip of water every now and then, and Eileen is actually helping me with that. When she's speaking, then I can do some other things, and because I need my attention as well. But tell the students when there's a break, when students are supposed to, or the learners, participants, when they're supposed to work on their own. Tell them, and then it should be all right. Okay, let's move on. This slide, I'm just watching at the time. Let's move on. I want to use the whiteboard in another, hopefully novel way, and for that I'm going to switch off my camera because you need your full undivided attention. We'll play scratch cards now. So the idea is that you'll use the pen tool. So that's a third most button above the whiteboard, or the fourth from the right. And I am going to ask you to fill in boxes on a scratch card. And if someone writes something over your box, then quickly choose another one. And yeah, it's exactly like you're doing now. And okay, so you have understood this concept. And in a second, I'm going to switch slides and have you respond by using scratch cards. All right, can you please stop writing on the whiteboard now, because I'm going to switch slides and it would make things messy. By the way, whatever you're doing, do not click on the eraser icon, right? And try to restrict your markings onto one little box. Okay, I'm going to switch slides now. Please stop doing anything for a second. And now here's the question. So which tools, so also choose the color, I haven't mentioned this. Please first think, which of these tools listed, platforms listed on this screen have you used as a participant? Then fill in this scratch card in blue. As a leader, session leader, fill in the scratch card in green. As a just viewed a recording, then fill it in gray. And if you've never used it, fill in the scratch card in red. And I'll leave you to it now for a few seconds. Okay, the scratch card is filling up nicely. We have quite a lot of blue, as was expected. But the red is now getting more and more. And somebody has never used any of these tools and just drawn a large line, or maybe it was a slip of the mouse. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. Right, so thank you for filling in the scratch cards, and just as a kind of a meta thought again, this is a way to quickly get responses to quite a complicated field, because we now have a multi-dimensional question with different prompts here on which are written out there. Then we have different roles that you have used these platforms at or not at all. And that gives us a quick overview. Blue seems to be in the lead here, and there are quite a number of leaders of the various platforms. I can't really make out a platform that is leading the pack from these scratch cards here. Microsoft Skype seems to be quite popular, as well as Adobe Connect. Yeah, but so it's quite difficult to see numbers here. So what these colored scratch cards are good at, they effectively help you get a sense and trends and so on, and that works quite well. Now I'm going to ask you to fill in scratch cards again. And I am asking you a different question. And the next question is, have you used, heard of, or never heard of these tools? These are also web conferencing platforms, but they're different ones. And now this only fill in the use scratch card. The green blobs should go to the in the left scratch part of the scratch card. The blue things should go in the middle, and the black in the right. Oh, you picked it up. You're so good. Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds to finalize the spreadsheet. Great. All right. So most of you have not heard of WYSIWYG, Open Meetings, or IBM Same Time. And Citrix, of all these other tools, seems to be the most popular tool in terms of usage. Followed, interestingly, by WYSIWYG, which also has a very red scratch card here. And then the big blue button and Citrix and seem to be those that are in people's minds, but they might not have used them. Okay, so this is an example of a more structured thing. So when you want to get numbers, then you can use these structured scratch cards quite easily. And again, it's a multi-dimensional question, and it's quite a quick way of eliciting responses here. So, and I am wondering, Eileen told me that she needs to leave a little bit early, but I now, in the remaining minutes, I want to look at session formats because I think well, this technology can be used in so many different ways. Eileen, can you probably tell us 2 or 3 of your applications that you have used?
In terms of different formats.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. Well, one of my less I think successful experiences of running webinars, whatever we're calling them, was teaching in for a university where they had already had a convention of how you did video conferences, and I think actually that's their term. And it was very much, you know, the tutor presents, and then the students never had their videos on, never had their audio on, and they responded to polls. And it was, you know, I found it very difficult to shift that, because what I've really wanted to do before is to do, obviously, because, you know, I've learned from you, Tim, and, you know, I've wanted to use these kind of tools, make things very interactive, and see that really the point is that, you know, that we can share experiences and maybe sort of construct you know, knowledge together during a session like this. It's the most powerful way of using it. But I found it almost impossible to do it because the conventions had been set within that situation, that I had to do it as a presentation. I got very good at using the polling tool. It was using Adobe Connect, but, you know, I was a bit disappointed with it.
Okay, yeah, I've just called up a slide here. So what you described is effectively the traditional remote lecture or remote presentation part. And whereas we actually want to get to this active session thing, where people don't just sit back, but have some means of feeding back, which goes beyond just asking text questions and responding to polls. And yeah, I personally find the whiteboard the most powerful tool for that. But there are effectively so many different ways of using this technology, and I actually do have like 8 potential case scenarios. Some people are using this technology as a replacement for lecture recordings. We've covered the remote lectures. In online meeting environment, Skype is quite popular for that. And there was a comment in the text chat that Skype is very limited. Yes, but not the Skype for Business, because you can branch out in a full web conferencing environment with whiteboard and everything. And that makes it as powerful as this environment here. Then we have used the web conferences to connect 2 rooms together, 2 groups of people in different rooms. And we are investigating this a little bit further, and for income generation, to sell seminars to the wide world, to involve international students who can't come to the campus, and an opportunity to address more people than the architecture allows. We are currently discussing this at UCL. And we are using what we call the hybrid mode to teach students who are in the classroom and somewhere in the world at the same time. And this has particular challenges. So I'm currently in the process of writing up the experience of 4 groups that have run this format at the IOE. And these are the sessions where you really need help in the form of a second moderator. And I think, Eileen, you had informed earlier with these hybrid sessions that there's a danger of who you're addressing, isn't it?
Yes, well, you know, as a participant in hybrid sessions, I know that like an online participant, when there's been a live audience as well, it's always, you know, you can feel a bit like a second-class citizen, because you could obviously the person who's running the session, it's probably a kind of natural thing to respond first, you know. But if you know, if you're ignored online, I think that there is a kind of general feeling that you can get a sense of being ignored online, and it's in all kinds of ways, you know, in text chats and so on. So it's important, I think, to remember that the online people are really there, and it might not be so easy for them to engage as well. So it's more powerful, I think, to be ignored or included.
And I'm conscious of the time, so I'm moving towards wrapping up now. And what you've just said effectively leads me to call up this slide here, the challenges of live conferencing that we have. I think they are effectively three-part challenges. We need to grapple with the technology. We need to understand the media. I'm separating media and technology because the media is more than just knowing which button to press and what thing to call up at which moment. It's so much more like what I said earlier, understanding the camera, playing, understanding the texture and working purposefully with it, and the whiteboard tool and all the other tools that are incredibly useful and serve probably only one single purpose, but when they are not there, you'll miss them. And one of these tools that I am missing personally is the countdown timer, which was in Blackboard Collaborate Classic, but has not yet made the jump to Ultra. So as a countdown, I'm using my hands. It's a workaround, that's a purposeful use of video again, but having a timer makes things a little bit easier. Now, as I'm currently talking platforms, am I personally wedded to a particular platform? No, not really. I mean, every platform has its advantages. What I like about that Collaborate Ultra is that it works in a web browser on WebRTC technology, which I think is the future, and other platforms seem to be moving down that route as well. But then at the moment, I think Adobe Connect has the richest feature set of all. And Microsoft Skype for Business, the web conferencing thing, they have this nice approach of instant messaging integration so that you can jump from a normal phone call into a bloated web conference just like this. And every tool fulfills a function and has a good purpose. So if you would press me to ask what's your favorite tool, I can't really answer that. And in the context of the Bloomsbury colleges, I was the one who was asking people which do you prefer, because we made some web conferencing reviews and I wrote a report for that. And it's incredibly hard to pick a favorite and to draw a short list from a long list. That's really, really hard because they are so similar and there are hundreds of tools available and new ones keep appearing. Technology, media, and pedagogy, I think, are the main challenges for designing good sessions. And on pedagogies, these are the learning theories that I personally find quite interesting. I'm happy to share slides with proper references where you can read more about these things. And I want to show my last slide with a tip, which is case scenarios. I was running a project where we investigated different session formats, and thinking about planning a session, I like really first to sort out what are the meta parameters of the session. And so I am effectively thinking in my head, how would I describe the format, what skills are needed on the presenter's behalf, on the participants' behalf, what activities are we running, what's actually the mindset, what pedagogical model is behind in the sessions, and how can we embed it. And these headings actually help me personally quite a bit to go through things. And so this is a different session format with different responses to the same headings. This is a much more active session compared to the first one. And looking at the clock, I think we'll leave it at that. I actually wanted to have much more time for questions and answers. I'm so sorry that I have overrun. I think if we still have time for questions, I'm still around for a few more minutes. If you have to leave, then please do so. But Lorraine still wants to say a few words, I think.
Not really. Can you hear me? Just like to thank you very much, Tim, for a wonderful session. Just want to remind everybody that if you have something that you want to share with the rest of the community, please email me at lbarclay@sgul.ac.uk. And the next webinar will be on the 24th of January, and that's UCL's Connected Curriculum. So hopefully you can all join us there in January. So see you later. So if you want to hang on, please, I'm sure Tim will answer any other questions that you can put in the chat, or anything that you want to say now. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thanks. And I will leave the recording on for the time being because there are a couple of text chat questions that might be useful to record as well. For example, James S. asks, where could we find your work study of mixed mode delivery once it's ready? Oh, that's a good question. I hope in some at some point, but that those publication times are so long. So it's going to be developed as an internal report first and foremost. So probably keep an eye on my Twitter feed, which is Tim_Neumann and Eileen. Or yeah, maybe email me and I'll, if I don't forget, send an email around. And well, oh no, here's a good point. We'll publish it, I'm saying this, on the UCL Digital Education blog, which is, do I know the address on top of my heart? Obviously not. I think it's UCL blogs.ucl.ac.uk/digital-education, which I'm just about to post into the text chat. So yeah, that's where we'll write a blog entry on that. So just going through, if you have to leave, thanks for joining us. It's really great to have such a large number of people online. It's quite a challenge to manage this group. I'm just going through some text chat comments. If you've tailored, Sayi asks, if you've tailored interactive sessions for small groups, but more join, which platform allow you to restrict entry? Actually, I think pretty much most of the platforms do that. You can close off sessions to new people. Unfortunately, I think that in Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, I think it's not yet available. It's evolving quite quickly, but a lot of the features that were available in Blackboard Collaborate Classic weren't there. But I have seen this feature quite frequently on most platforms, really. Elizabeth Charles from Birkbeck makes a comment, shared slides with references would be very much appreciated. Yes, I'll get in touch with Lorraine so that as you've all registered, we can email those slides to you after the session. Lorraine has posted a comparison table of platforms, which is also one reason why I didn't really go into this today. Actually, find and posted that. Yeah, in terms of Skype, yeah, there was some confusion of that. The normal Skype has a really severe limit of just, yeah, I think it's 25 people now assignment typed in the text chat. Skype for Business, where you can really run the screen sharing or the hoo-ha with polls and everything, that has 250 if you want interaction. And Gareth comments 10,000 attendees for broadcasts. That's effectively following a similar model like Google Hangouts, where you can broadcast to a virtually unlimited number. But if you want to have interaction with people, then the limit is much, much more restricted. Yeah, there was a comment on comparing Collaborate Ultra with Adobe Connect. Yes, Collaborate Ultra is scaling up at 250 and probably more users in the future. yeah, the best bit is that it's web-based with no Java, no nodes. Well, it still uses Flash if you're not using the Chrome browser, but maybe in the future this will also be removed as the world moves towards WebRTC, which is the underlying technology, which is a shared standard. Right, iPad was mentioned throughout. Yes, well, the support of mobile devices is getting better and better, but it still is somewhat restricted. You can't do everything on a mobile device that you can with a desktop or laptop. So there's still the case of using proper computers, but most basic functionality like text chat, video, audio, and a little bit of whiteboard drawing is possible. And there was an earlier question whether I have used the scratch card technique with an app. To be honest, I have not. So if there were some app users today in the audience and they were able to participate, then that would have been a really good case study. It should work if you have access to the whiteboard. So, and I have missed the most recent chats. Robert, okay, you're saying 50% of your cohort will access webinars via an iPad. Oh, that's actually quite a significant number. So, yeah, I think it's moving that way, that mobile devices like tablets will be supported more and more. And frankly, they have to. They are just great for whiteboard interaction. Much, much better than drawing with a mouse on the screen. You just use a finger or a small pen and draw directly on the screen. So, yeah, I hope we'll see more support of these tablets, better support of these tablets in the future. Right, I think I have addressed most of the questions. So thanks, everybody. I will now stop the recording. And if you're watching the recording, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.